Hello, everybody.
Hey, hey, Apples and Frank and Jessica and Pam and Mary Vanderwood and Louise. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. So we are going to, uh, we're going to do some more work with colored pencils today. I'm going to show you how to color some Macon's clay. Oh, I'm going to turn my. Hey, Apples and Frank and Jessica. I'm sorry, my tab. I forgot to turn my tablet volume down. Mary Vanderwood. There, now my tablet volume is turned down. So I'm going to show you that in a couple of minutes. But before we do that, I wanted to show you guys some things I learned about using colored pencil on oven-baked clay. So we'll do this air dry clay in a minute. Okay. So
howdy, Jane Evans. How you doing?
Hey. She's trying to watch. Pam is trying to watch us as she's working at her real job at her kitchen table. All of our jobs are crafts. Okay, so this little piece of clay here, this is regular Primo. And, I made a kind of a cool puzzle piece for Anne-Marie Donovan. And I used Prismacolor pencils to color that in. So that I just wanted to show you, this is just regular Primo, right? And so the dark colors don't do too badly on that. But the lighter colors, I had a hard time with.
So Georgiana Frank says hello.
Hello,
Mary Ann
Georgiana.
Vanderbilt, Mrs. Coloring in the first grade. And Patricia Bearden says hello, hello.
Hello, Patricia. Hello. Okay, so originally when I used colored pencils on polymer clay on stream, what I did was I painted the clay. I didn't have nice flat pieces like this. And so I painted the clay with a medium, a pumice medium, in order to get the pigments to lay down on the clay. But I know that's an addition. The colored pencils can be pricey to begin with. And I know that's, it's an extra step that probably a lot of people don't want to do. If you have a nice flat piece of just Primo like this, then what I'd suggest you do is sand it after it's baked to, 600 or 800. You don't have to go, you want it to be a little bit rough and have a little bit of tooth. And then the pigments lay down a little bit easier. But as you can see here, the darker colors show up really well. But if you wanted to do like a lot of light color, like white, it doesn't show up as well. It really doesn't. So, and this is with Prismacolor. Now this and this, they both have a lot of souffle in them. They're not pure souffle, but they have a lot of souffle in them. So again, I'm going to just, let's try to make an actual design here. And so the Prismacolor actually goes down a little bit nicer on the souffle. Because believe it or not, you want it to be a little bit rough. And so, souffle has that great sort of a suede texture, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So again, that's Prismacolor on souffle. That's a dark color on a dark color. And here's the white on souffle. Prismacolor white.
So, sweetie, Jessica's saying they have Prismacolors. They are pricey, but they love them.
Yeah, Prismacolors are cool. I'm going to show you a couple of other kinds of colored pencils today too. So if you look at, I mean, that's white on a light color, but on souffle, these colored pencils just seem to work much nicer. Well, it's kind of a pretty little design. And I'm just using what they call hatching. So hatching is when you use lines, right? Use lines to make marks, right? Cross hatching is when you hatch and then you cross over it. Lots of times I use something called scumbling, which is you go in a circular motion like this.
Howdy, Deborah Gabriel. How you doing today?
Hey, Deborah. Okay, so that's one of the things I discovered, that it's much easier to use souffle with Prismacolor pencils than it is to use Primo. And if you do use Primo, then you want to rough it up a little bit. You know, get it to about somewhere between 600 and 800 grit. That's what I thought, at least.
And sweetie Mary Joy is here.
Hey, Mary Joy. Hey, Mary Joy. So that's what I found out about Prismacolor. But, you know, I think you all know that I'm a great fan of Cindy Holt. And she has mentioned a couple of times, and we've had a few online conversations. I don't know her personally. But she mentioned that she likes these Derwent Color Soft pencils better than she likes Prismacolor. And again, these are not cheap. these are not cheap pencils. So what I'm going to do is, this is Primo, and this is a dark color. Actually, you know, usually when you use colored pencils, you start with your lightest color. So this is Primo, and again, I just sanded it to, I think 600 grit is where I decided was the best. So that's the white on Primo that I just roughed up a little bit.
So, sweetie, Mary Vanderwood said that's good to know. Prisma, DeWalt, and Walt Hollow she loves.
Yeah, if you can still get those walnut hollows, baby. I'm going to show you. So the difference between the Prismacolors and these Derwent Color Soft and the walnut hollow is, the walnut hollow is oil based. They actually both have oil and both have wax in them, if you really look up and do a scientific research on them. But the walnut hollow ones have more oil and less wax. And these pencils I'm using right now have more wax and less oil. So the reason why artists sometimes say, well, I'm not going to use the ones that have more wax is you can sometimes get a waxy bloom over. One of these days, I'll do a real colored pencil on paper stream, but you can sometimes get a waxy bloom, which is actually pretty easy to remove, but you know, some colored pencil artists would rather not. So these, I have to agree with Cindy that most of these color soft pencils will go down on just Primo. That's just a little bit sanded pretty easily, and they, you know, blended pretty easily, and I didn't have problems with the wax, the pigment rather, lifting. Right? You know, I could get the colors pretty deep without too much problems. All right, so the other thing I want to say about the walnut hollow pencils is they're not made anymore. It's very sad that they're not made anymore. And then I could use this. Oh, let me see the white.
You have the smallest white pencil I've ever seen.
And I don't have so I have a little tool for when your pencils get this small that you put on there, and I couldn't find it before stream. You know, it's an extender, a pencil extender. But, you know, and they're blending on there nicely, and they're not coming off. Okay? It was an adventure to color in my puzzle piece. for Anne Marie. It really, really was. So that's the Derwent Color Soft. And Misha, I know I gave you all the, I think I gave you the links for all these pencils. So
I was letting your English brain catch up.
so the Prismacolors are less expensive than these Derwent Color Soft. And now these puppies that I'm going to pull out are called. Oh wait! Before we do that, let me show you how. Let me show you how the Color Soft ones work on souffle, because I happen to think they're kind of a dream on souffle. That's a pretty light color that I'm putting down.
Is the second one the Polychromos pencils? The links I have are Crayola and Polychromos and Prisma.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, I showed them the package. Derwent Color Soft. I thought I gave you that. So they go down, pretty dreamy on the souffle. Pretty dreamy. So there's a light color. And now we'll try a darker color. So I have to agree. I have to agree with Cindy. I think they're a much better choice for Primo, and they're a fantastic choice. All right, so I'm just scribbling on these. These were little samples I had made for a stream a couple of weeks back. All right, and again, they don't come off, and if you want to blend them, they blend very, very nicely. So that's my opinion. I do have to agree with Cindy Holt. They are a softer pencil than Prismacolor, and that makes them a little bit easier to use.
So Mary Vanderweer says, "Wow," with a big W.
So we just talked a little bit about oil pencils as opposed to wax-based pencils. So these pencils here, these are extremely expensive, and I usually use them on items I've wood burned. Let's see if I have. I don't have it here because I took it out to the kitchen to make a photograph of it. I am having difficulty with English today. I'm sorry. But Polychromos pencils are, they have more oil than they have wax. So I need some place to put this for a sec.
So Sue Howard is throwing coal on her computer. I'm really curious to know why. And she says, "Hi guys, be with you shortly." Frank asks, "They don't come off? Question marks. Do you seal them when you're done?"
I have not had to seal anything. I have not really. They really don't. They really don't come off. I mean that one's really. They blend really nicely on.
Paul is asking for a close-up. Can you send her one of those, sweetie? Thank you. There
So
you
my
guys
best
go.
and my best Boston accent. I'm wicked impressed by the Color Soft, the Derwent Color Soft. So now what I'm going to use is something called Polychromos pencils, and they are the most expensive, and they have more oil than wax. So this is just on Primo, and I wasn't too impressed with them on Primo at all, whether I used a dark color or a light color. Let me get this pencil here. They really just, the light colors didn't really show up well. The darker colors were, they were okay. Now, of course, I meant to pick up a blue and I picked up a purple. So it's going to look a little bit gray. So the
Okay,
darker colors.
thanks, Sue. She says my computer needs its toes warming to work. So that's why she threw more coal on for her computer.
Right, that's on Primo. So I think that, one of the biggest points I'm trying to make is they're all a lot easier. They're all a whole lot easier to use on souffle. Even sanding the regular polymer clay made
So,
them a little bit tough on Primo.
so I have a question for you that's not pencil related. What's the trade-off from a piece of jewelry, i.e., the material aspects, between souffle? Isn't it softer and squishier when or is it not that when it's baked?
So souffle, it's a pretty easy clay to work with. It's not super hard to condition. Kato clay can be harder to condition. Souffle isn't hard to condition, but it does have a lot of strength. And also souffle has like a different finish. You could sand and buff souffle all day long, and it wouldn't get the shininess that Primo gets. But if you were using this type of technique, well, then I don't see why you would
So would you
why you would be trying to get it shiny. It's
So if you wanted a shiny pencil colored piece with souffle, you might have to add like a UV resin or something like that to actually produce the shine.
exactly.
Okay,
And so
now I understand.
this is the polychromos, the oil-based pencil on souffle. And so that's the lightest color you can get, right? White. And it's not terribly impressive. It's not like woo hoo hoo. But the darker colors, show pretty well. And I know that Donna Cato uses colored pencils. She draws these little birds and stuff like that. I wish I had an opportunity to take a class with her and see what she does, how she gets the results that she gets. She uses Prismacolor, and she uses them, I believe, on Kato clay, right? That makes sense. All right, and so, but one of the biggest differences with Prismacolor, the Derwent soft, and the polychromos is the polychromos really they blend easier. So if that's important to you, to be able to blend a lot of colors. Okay.
So so Frank's asking, which do you find easiest to use on Primo?
The one that I found in the end, right, when I was doing that big puzzle piece, it was kind of a combination. The darker colors, I found the polychromos, the most expensive, of course, to be the easiest to use. Um, and they had the best coverage. But for white, I found the Prismacolor, if I needed to add some little white highlights, I found the Prismacolor went down well. The polychromos, I was able to put more layers, more and more and more layers. With the Prismacolor, I would get to a certain point and, maybe like the third or fourth layer. And I don't know, Mishi, if you still have the picture I drew of Wonder Woman, but, there was something, I don't know how many layers I had of color I had on that. But what would happen is that sometimes the pigment would lift. It was like the clay just couldn't handle any more, and any more pigment on there, and so it would lift, and I'd have to kind of start from scratch. It was another one of those really nerve-wracking things I did to myself. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting these pencils in a cup because I don't want them to roll off the table, because if they roll off the table and hit the floor, then the lead inside breaks. So we'll do a little review of all that stuff too. All right. And the final thing I tried was Crayola colored pencils, because I thought, well, gee, some people probably have these for adult coloring or to use with children. So let me get a light color and a few dark colors.
Joe Poindexter says, I'm late. To a very important date. Hi, everybody.
So these are just Crayolas. And I couldn't get the Crayolas to work on Primo at all. And on Souffle, you can see, I mean, I'm doing what they call scumbling now, right? Sort of just drawing in a circle. It's very faint, you would have to do. But if I do some hatching, lines instead of little circles, I was actually pretty surprised. And so if you've got kids and little pieces of Primo, I know everybody's looking for things to do with the children now. So, you can see that. And then let's try a darker color. So again, if you do the scumbling, if you do the scribbling, not much shows up. But if you do some hatching, where you use lines, then I was pretty impressed with how it worked on Souffle. So, Prismacolor and Derwent and all those, those are artist quality. So you can buy just a white, just a white Prismacolor, or just a, just a white
I think it's time to buy. I think it's time to buy you a new white pencil, sweetie.
Oh, I have another one. I just grabbed this one.
It would be great with the grandkids, Joe. Exactly, that's what Joe Poindexter says.
But just keep in mind that the scribbling technique, which is officially called scumbling, this technique tends to be what children use more, very small children. So you would have to kind of teach them to do, more of hatching or cross hatching, But I think it would be good. But yeah, kind of impressed with and actually on paper, when I tried these Crayolas out on paper, like an adult coloring book page, I was like, holy cow, there's a lot of pigment in these for cheap pencils, right? So yeah, you could cut some little shapes like this out of leftover. Now they don't blend beautifully, but you could cut some shapes like this out of leftover souffle. And yeah, they could have a good time. The kids could have a good time. Right? Maybe stick a rhinestone in the middle of that. Let them make their own jewelry. Okay, but so that was my little bit of a review of my findings, my big adventure with making that puzzle piece.
So, sweetie, Sue Howard says, so I wonder if you could put a stencil on the clay and then use the stencil to color around.
Yeah, that might be a great idea. Now, for the butterfly necklace, I did not use Primo or Souffle. I used an air dry clay called Makin's clay. And I haven't tried a lot of air dry clays, but I do like Makin's clay because I don't have trouble with cracking. Having said that, it can be difficult to get fresh Makin's clay. Very often when you buy Makin's clay on Amazon. It's old and it's kind of rubbery. Now you can put it in a bag with a few drops of water on it and it will revive it. But it is kind of a problem with Macon's clay. So,
So
go ahead.
Joe Poindexter says her grands are old, so they're better colorers.
So, Macon's clay comes wrapped up in a package like this. And what you do is, you open it up, and I usually use some scissors to cut off what I need. Right? You can just cut it off. Yeah, this is a little bit old now. And then, you know, you immediately, wrap up what you're not using. Get it in some plastic. And then you can put it in just a plastic bag with a damp paper towel or a baby wipe or just something that's going to keep moisture in that environment. Now, I did roll it through my pasta machine at the thickest setting.
So,
But
sweetie, Sue Howard says you can make your own cold porcelain recipes. It's where she began.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. So, and so all of the air dry clays have more of I talked about it before, a tooth to them, and that makes it easier for them to accept the pigment from the air dry clay or souffle or cold porcelain, even salto. I think might work okay for this. So I did put it through my pasta machine at the thickest setting. If you put Macon's clay through your pasta machine, then you have to clean the rollers afterwards, all right? Because when it's fresh, it's a little bit sticky and it gets on those rollers, and then when you go to use your regular polymer clay, you'll get little pieces of it stuck
It'll
in the
turn into
polymer
a
clay.
calico design.
Now and I just basically, it rolled it out at the thickest setting. I put it over the mold, and then I just rolled over it. And then I cut it out just with a craft knife. And then I used a moistened finger, not spit. I don't use a moistened finger to smooth the edges out, because this stuff doesn't sand the same way that polymer clay does. It can be a little tough to sand.
So so Joanne's asking, did you color that clay, or was it that color out of the package? She's
So
only
make
seen
it,
white.
yeah. So Macon's clay comes in a bunch of different colors. It does come in a bunch of different colors, and so yes, I did use the black. I did use the black on purpose. And the mold that I used was Christy Friesen's Flutter Wings. Christy Friesen's Flutter Wings. And I'm sorry, I know that I didn't, I know for a fact that I didn't give the link for that, and I apologize. All right, so that's just Christy Friesen's. And in the example that I show, I did use Prismacolors for it. And so let me just make sure I have all the colors I need here. I think I do. I think I do. But just on the back of one of these, just because we're talking about maybe doing this with kids, on the back, I just want to see how the Crayolas work. So I'm going to flip it over to where nobody will see. And yeah, so, I mean, that's not bad. That's just a Crayola, So, the Macon's clay is pretty cheap, but the other air dry clays are pretty cheap. Even if you make it yourself, if you make cold porcelain or something like that yourself, you could add some, the paste food coloring. Have you ever seen that cake decorators use? And you could, make it different colors if you wanted to, or you could just keep it white. I mean, there's no reason to be making life hard, right? So, but I am probably going to use my Prisma. And just to make me happy, I'm going to get a a different white pencil.
Well, I don't want people to think that I make you work with your pencils until they're itty baby little nubs, you know?
But you
Please.
do. I mean, you.
I'm not that cheap.
But because I use Prismacolors in the example, I'm going to use Prismacolors again today.
You know, it's hard finding a link to those wings, sweetie.
Yeah, I hope they're still.
They're available. It's just I've seen them in the UK, so I'm going to pop up a link to them.
Okay.
But I would recommend folks look for their best supplier.
Well, you might even look on Christy Friesen's site, right? That might be a good
Okay,
idea.
that would mean me. You know, I was hard enough trying to figure out how to spell her name. You know.
And I think I'm actually even. All right, I think I have enough pencils. Yeah. Okay, so I'll go over what I know about colored pencils again, whether you're using wax pencils or oil-based pencils. It's the leads break easier, and that can be really frustrating.
So Magelo Denano, forgive me for bastardizing the name, says hello from France.
Hello. So, you know, the leads break easier than, you know, graphite. And that's really frustrating for people. So one thing that you do is prior to using your pencils, you can either, like I live in Georgia, so I can just put my pencils outside for about, you know, 20 minutes or so. And what that does is it softens up that wax that's in there a little bit and mends any little breaks that you might have in the colored pencils. And then I let them cool down before I use them. So that's, you know, one thing to know. The other thing I already mentioned, you want to have them, you know, in an upright container. You know, there's my Flex Jobs cup that I keep all my colored pencils in, right? So they're not going to be rolling off the edge of my desk and hitting the floor while I'm working. So that's another thing to know about them. But one of the most important things to know about colored pencils is how to sharpen them. So you can buy a sharpener like this. This is from Prismacolor. And it has, you know, sort of a blunt side and a very pointy, sharp side. When I first started, we all used to use a sharpener meant for eyeliner. So, but the trick to it is I hold the pencil usually in my dominant hand, and I have the eraser in my non-dominant hand, not eraser, sharpener in my non-dominant hand, and I turn the sharpener, not the pencil. I turn the sharpener. And
hello, Nikki. Welcome on in.
Hi. Right now, I can tell you right now that that blade's not sharp enough. And the reason why I know that is because I didn't get a nice long curl. If you start getting like little short curls of pencil shaving, then you know it's time to get a new one. Most of them come with, you know, the more expensive pencil sharpeners. Most of them have this little screw in it, so you can, believe it or not, just buy the the blade, I guess. Let's see how this side is.
Both Joe Poindexter and Mary say great tip on the standing them up on the putting them out in the hot Georgia sun, I think.
Yeah, so I've seen people say they microwave them. I wouldn't, you know, because you might just have a multicolored microwave thing going on. So I don't think that I would. I'm going to switch to my other sharpener now that you've seen me do this. So I don't think that I would do that. I have always like just put them in a window. Some people will use their hairdryer, you know, and that, like I said, that just melts up the lead enough that you can, then let it cool, and it usually gets rid of, any cracks in there. But I have to tell you that learning how to sharpen them, right? Don't turn the pencil, because that just puts some torque on there, and that breaks the lead. So don't turn the pencil, turn the sharpener. That's the boy. There's no getting away from the Boston accent when I say sharpener.
So just to catch you up here, sweetie, Deborah goes through sharpeners like crazy. Mary says it's hard to find a good sharpener. Nikki's asking, what kind of pencils are these?
So these ones that I'm going to use to color in this little wing are I'm going to go with Prismacolor. Unfortunately, Nikki, you just missed a whole demonstration on Crayolas and all kinds of different kinds of colored pencils. So I do apologize for that. But you can rewind when we're done and watch it. So by and large, with colored pencil, you start with your lightest colors, and then you move on to your darker colors. So I'm actually going to start with some white here today. And again, I'm using what they call scumbling. And so what I'm doing is I'm going in little circles. I think it's scumbling. It's something like that.
You're fine, Nikki. Is Prismacolor okay?
Is Prismacolor...
For this project, Prismacolor's just fine.
Yeah. Prismacolors work very well on... I'm using Macon's clay today, Nikki. It's a polymer clay, but it's an air-dry polymer clay. I used to be on their design team. So I'm gonna,
hey, Suzanne. She says hi from Switzerland.
Hey, Suzanne. How are you? So one of the reasons why I picked the black clay is because I wanted to kind of get that adult coloring book feel. I wanted to have the really deep black lines and just be kind of coloring in the raised areas of this design. Now, if I had the dough, if I had the cash, I would have grabbed some Zuri molds for this. They're a newer mold company, and boy, they have some pretty stuff. And I should mention the Macon's clay down here, Georgia, it's very, very, very humid. And so when I make something or mold something with Macon's clay, it can take quite some time to dry. Between 24 and 72 hours, depending on the thickness and the size of the object. And so this is, you can imagine, this is it's pretty relaxing to sit here and do this. And of course, I don't have the one thing I've got was my glasses. I've had a burst of creativity, and I've been knitting and wood burning and doing all this different stuff. So the house is filled. There's barely any place to sit.
We now have a knitting station in the living room, and we've got the beginnings of a wood burning station going up. Hey, Gabby, welcome in. I thought you weren't supposed to be here.
Is that Gabby?
That's Gabby.
Hey, Gabby.
You're asking the wrong person, Mary, but I'll go ahead and ask. How do you spell Zuribles?
Zuri molds? The Zuri
Oh,
space
Frank's got it. Zuri Designs.
Zuri designs. They're beautiful. And I thought to myself, when the pandemic's over, I'm gonna, and I have a couple of bucks. I'm gonna get myself some Zuri molds, and I'm gonna use either Makin's clay or another air dry clay, and I'm gonna mold up some stuff, and then I'm gonna have a coloring party. I'm gonna have people come over and just color and color and color and color.
So I don't know. So Joe Poindexter is asking, so if I buy some Sculpey air dry local, can I color with my cake decorating paste?
The reason why I brought that up is because those colors, the pigment and the paste food coloring is, very strong, right? If you use a little, dropper food coloring, you really would only get pastel colors. And, I don't know. I don't know. I think they'd be okay. I think I don't think there's anything in there. They're by and large water based, right? So see, this is a mold that has a lot of raised areas. Everything I'm coloring in here is raised up. And so I thought it was really cool for this technique. Rather than trying to get in and color, um, you know, color inside, I thought it was better to color, on top. There's less coloring in the wrong place that way.
All right, Sudie, I'm going to interrupt you because we got an active stream here.
Okay.
Gabby says, hey, Cynthia.
Hey, Gabby.
And you're right, Sue. Sue says Cynthia is bursting. Oh my God. She's in the creative uptick. This is something, that if you're a partner with Cynthia, you gotta understand.
I had a guy break up with me one time because he said it was like dating an elf.
and Suzanne says I have Karin. Okay, the Arch pencils, which I've never heard of, nor can I probably say correctly.
Can you spell it?
D apostrophe uppercase ACHE.
I don't know. I think you kind of have to do what Cindy Holt has done and what I've done and what Donna Cato's done, and I think you got to do some experimenting. But like I said, I even got Crayola to work. So I mean, if you work hard enough.
And Anita Buckhour says, "Hey, Gabby wasn't late. She beat me here. Welcome on in, Anita. How you been doing?"
So again, I started with white. And for those that missed what I said before, this is a Prismacolor sharpener. You just if you can't get a Prismacolor sharpener or afford it or whatever, when I first started, way back, learning to use colored pencils, and I'm pretty proficient at colored pencils. Just putting colored pencils onto clay is where I don't have too much experience. But you want to make sure you're turning the sharpener, not the pencil. All right. So put your pencils outside in the sun and let them get nice and warm, or on a windowsill, or blow over them with your hair dryer. Let them get nice and warm, and then let them cool off, and that helps the lead, the wax in the middle, not break. Put your pencils in something that's standing upright so that they don't roll off the table and hit the floor. Every time they hit the floor, some of the wax breaks. And turn your sharpener, not the pencil. And all that helps.
I'm sorry that real work, Anita, is interrupting, true work, right? It's kind of the balance between the two.
Your real life's purpose. And so again, this is still a light color. And what you can do is just have a stencil brush or any kind of paintbrush handy. So if you get little flakes of wax and pigment, you can brush them right off.
I agree with you, Frank. I've believe it or not, been thinking of how to do that over the last couple of weeks. He's saying we need to figure out an international craft supply shop so we can get all the things that are available, that are not available in our country, and swap what they can't get in their country. But we got to figure out how to get the bean counters out of the middle of the way.
Yeah. But don't you think this would be a great, craft party thing to do? I think this would be a great, if you had it all molded and dried and ready to go, instead of having paint night, you could have coloring night, but it would be, make your own adult coloring. I always, it's called adult coloring, but I'm always afraid people are going to think, we're going to color pornographic images or something like that.
Better you said it than I keep hearing it and going, sweetie, we don't do that. We're not going to have adult coloring. I'm not going out and buying those stencils. Definitely not the molds, right? Yeah, well, we've got to figure out how the Chinese do it. They get things out. They get things back and forth pretty cheap. Good. I hope Mighty Mitten Adventure went well for you, Anita.
Oh, yeah, I heard that it did. I'm sorry I missed that, Anita.
Hell, I did walk there. I've been going through the. I
No,
got
they
to get
did
out
it.
of
They
my
did it.
cage.
They did it virtually, Mish.
Oh, did they? Good.
Yeah, yeah, they did it virtually. Now I'm gonna go with a slightly darker yellow. And this is the fun of colored pencils. You just do it in layers. You just build up the colors. But yeah, so has anybody actually has anybody in chat actually used Azuri Designs mold? Has anybody been lucky enough to get their hands on one? They're beautiful. I saw a couple of mermaid ones. Dragons. Coloring your own dragon.
Oh, that'd be fun. See, I've never been a big colorer because there's those things called lines, and I have battles with those things called lines.
So that's why I instead of doing it on a flat piece, that's why in the end I decided to do it, on a piece that had been molded. And there's just so many different molds available for polymer clay or this air dry clay. So many molds.
Now, those molds would also work for polymer, but it's a different process, right?
Yeah, it was so I think if you molded with souffle, you'd probably be able to do this, pretty easily. The problem that I had, like with the puzzle pieces, I did it in, regular polymer clay, not Primo, and because it was dimensional like this, I was having a hard time figuring out how I could sand it and get enough of a texture on there that the polymer clay would work.
So that makes sense. So yeah, I naturally go over the lines. Matter of fact, I think the best way to describe my coloring technique is I go over the book.
Not just over the lines, you actually go
No,
over the book, huh?
there is many a permanent table throughout history that has my mark on it. The But I'm learning to get better. Oh, man down.
Speaking of broken lead, I must have done that one incorrectly. I mean, you're going to get some breakage no matter what you do. It's just I can't get my pencil sharpener back together here.
So Suzanne's asking, was that a makeup brush?
No, it's just a big. This is just a big fluffy brush. Just a big fluffy brush. Sometimes
Would a makeup brush work?
probably. Sometimes I use a stencil brush because it gets into the spaces in between a little bit better. Let me get this guy sharpened up. And actually, I'll show you at the very end what I did is I really sharpened up a black pencil, and I went in between there, like if I got any little crumbs of pigment in there.
Oh, these look really beautiful when they're done.
Yeah, they're a neat little thing I discovered.
Gabby says nothing breaks her heart more than a broken lead.
Yeah, it's so fun. I just see it all the time. People that I've spent so much money on these pencils and all the leads break, and I'm like, oh. But those little techniques I talked about can really, really help with that.
Hey, Sue, what's a big click stick?
Is that an eraser?
I don't know. They don't distribute them in the UK. It's crazy. She asked a friend to get her some big click sticks for covering.
She's probably saying.
Well, or coloring, either one. I'm just curious what they are because I'm learning.
So with the white and the two yellows, I went the whole length. This time, with this greener color, I'm only going about 3/4 of the way up each of these shapes because I want more of a gradient now.
Ah, okay, they're pins. I now know what you're talking about. Okay. Yes. They don't sell those in the UK? That's a pile of money waiting to be made. That's just silly.
International. Everybody's got to kind of wait and see what happens with the post office. I think the U.S. Post Office. I mean, I won't even attempt international trade right now. So I had asked, has anybody used the Zuri molds? And I don't think we got a.
No, some people said they'd used them. I'm sorry, did I drop the ball on that one? The chat's going like crazy. I can't really go back that far.
All right, that's okay. That's okay. What made me think of it is I think they were having some trouble with shipping at one point too.
So for our anniversary, if I get you Zuri molds in November, I'm the cool dude again. See, she's easy to buy gifts for. It's like,
get me something I can color. So now this time with this color, which is light aqua, I am only going to go about halfway up.
Though I have to admit, the last couple of years we've both been, sweetie, our birthdays went by, which mean we missed the anniversary too. Should we do something?
The anniversary was actually last month.
Was it? Jesus frickin'. Stop there, right, Mish? That's okay.
Jeez Louise. So, this is the kind of thing, I mean, it's not hard to do, but you can make a pretty striking little butterfly. I don't know if I would sell these because this is it's a kind of a strange clay when it's dried. But one thing I didn't do with the last one I made that I'll probably do with a few of these is to really put a number of coats of maybe Varathane on it and see if that makes it I don't know, a different, a more professional.
Thanks for coming on in, Suzanne. Enjoy the last few rays of sun. We'll see you next week.
So now I'm using True Blue.
Anita, that has been on my wish list for 5 years now. A tabletop laser. I've really been looking at the UV 3D printers because the density and the quality is a lot better because I want to learn how to do lossless wax casting. And believe it or not, some of the new UV resins out, actually, you can use them as a lossless wax medium. So it's like a perfect mix. But yeah, you've named all mine. I also want a 5-axis CNC machine. Not quite sure what I do with it yet, but those are all the toys I've been dreaming of.
So one of the things I've played with a lot and that I've got some proficiency in is something called knitting machines. Manual knitting machines and some electronic knitting machines. Mishi's helping me hack a very old electronic machine from the 80s. And so it's different from hand knitting, but it's still a skill. And so I'm talking to Mish about this, and I'm saying what do I want to do with my knowledge of machine knitting that I've been doing since the 80s? Do I want to teach it, or do I want to like make a little cottage industry where I'm making things with it? You want to come in kind of close on that so they can see how that's developing. So next thing I know, Misha's like online looking up industrial knitting machines.
They're not that badly priced.
It's like 10 feet long. No, Mishi, no, I don't think we can do that. So now I'm going to do just the very inside corners. This is Copenhagen blue. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Misha's, you guys can't hear it, but Misha's sneezing. So just the inner corners here.
Oh my goodness, my head is still attached.
God bless you, Misha.
So Nikki says to avoid the tax, you can say it's a gift.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. So maybe what we should do is find a trustworthy, sensible middleman. And
so yeah, I mean, I'll have to try this on black souffle. I'm sorry, Mish.
Okay.
I just didn't have any souffle, so that's why I used. And I actually had done when I was on Macon's design team. I had actually done this as a blog post for them. I'm not sure what's going on with Macon's design team these days, though.
So Anita says she'll send you some contact info for me for a guy who teaches lossless wax.
Now,
somebody, hold on, I saw wool somewhere which caught my eye. I got it.
So now this is called a colorless blender. This is basically just wax. There's nothing but wax in this, and it's a Prismacolor pencil called a colorless blender. If you don't have a colorless blender, you can just use white to blend.
So Joe Poindexter says she had she had to put one bulky away. I had a few. I like to make sheets of wool with the bulky and felt it.
Yeah, so I had a book once, and I had a big knitting machine, and it was called an artisan knitting machine. It was a mid gauge, so you can get a standard size knitting machine, and that's actually the smallest stitch. You can get a mid gauge machine or a bulky machine. So I had a mid gauge. It was called an artisan. And what it was is that somebody had bought up all these knitting machines that used to be in a Japanese factory. And I used to, knit up, tons and tons of, wool and stuff like that. But just as like a big rectangle fabric. And then what I'd do is I'd use a serger. Serger is a special type of sewing machine that it cuts and sews at the same time. So because I was never getting any of my knitting projects finished until I started to do them that way.
Thanks for coming by, Anita. Sorry that obligations are tapping you on the shoulder. We'll catch you next time.
And I'm going to add a little bit more white here, I think. Just to the tips, just to brighten it up a little bit. Just to brighten it up a little bit.
That's starting to look really nice, sweetie.
Yeah, it is a nice. It is a nice technique. It's actually been hard for me to make sure I'm paying attention to you guys because I'm very relaxed here. Let's brighten that up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, one of my jobs is to tap her on the shoulder in the morning and the evenings and go, "Are you ready to eat? Do you need more coffee? Have you had water lately? Ginger's been staring at you for 20 minutes. Are you okay?"
Ginger is the dog, just so people. I don't have a child named Ginger or something.
Well, it depends on how you look at Ginger the dog, right? She's like having her own little 3-year-old running around.
I just don't want them to think I'm neglecting a child.
Nah, she'd never neglect a child. Sometimes, though, I have to tell her, "I'm going to go make dinner, sweetie. Are you interested?"
Okay.
Oh, that really changed it. I like that.
Yeah, and you can just keep going with layers and layers and layers. Now, that's if you start with white. That's a more muted type of a look to it. But if you want to, you can start, really just start with one of your colors. I get.
So Sue Howard's asking, do you color in any particular order? I know you used the white first, but is there any other specific way?
I basically go from lightest to darkest. That, on a piece like this, that's what works out well. Right, these what are they called? Segments? These wing segments.
But it looks like you went back over it and you went down, and when you got to your darkest and you got your colors down, it looks like you went back to light and highlighted.
I did. Yeah. So I was just gonna say that, but that okay. You can say it for me.
Well,
but
okay. See, old dogs do learn new tricks.
Right. So that's basically what I did. So, but you don't have to start, with white. You can start with I like this yellow. If you want kind of a
Welcome back, Suzanne. She's on the balcony with her pad. Um,
with her iPad.
and Sue Howard had a follow up question. Is that because it's black?
No, I think I always do that, right? I always do what you just saw. And this is, just something I learned from using them with paper. Is if you start with your lightest, it's just easier. And you usually, like I said, you can usually go back in and add some highlights. Even now, I'm going to use the tiny pencil. But even now, I've got a
You
lot of
just
layers.
like the tiny pencil. I know.
I've got a lot of layers on there, but I can still add some white in there and get kind of a highlight.
So Nikki's saying I have her husband's job in our household. He does the same thing. And Frank is saying Gary doesn't even ask. He brings me food when he's hungry.
So I don't want you to think I neglect Mish, though. I do a weekly cooking day. So when he says he's cooking, oftentimes he's just heating up something I cooked.
That's cooking. That's cooking. I have to heat. Heat is part of cooking.
You add the love. Mish adds
I
the
add the
love.
love and. Thank you, Nikki. She thinks I'm a good man, sweetie. See, she's
Oh,
right.
he is a good man. He's a good man.
No, sometimes
He's
not
a
even.
very
It's like we actually found these. One of the things, believe it or not, that's been really hard to find here in our area of Georgia is hamburger. And every once in a while, you just want a good burger. There's nothing like it. And so we actually found some frozen hamburgers that are really good, and nobody dipped them in hot sauce or it's one part pepper to one part meat. It's just a good, nice beef burger. So I made hamburgers the other day. Now, admittedly, it's get the frying pan up, get it hot, and cook it up.
well. Still, I mean, I didn't have to stop what I was doing, though, to do even a little bit like that. So it's super helpful. It's super helpful, and you've been very good about you know cleaning up, right?
Oh yeah, and she does cook. And I'm going to be honest with her. Unfortunately, this kitchen is a little small to get two people in.
Well, it's small for us. Two skinny
This is
people might
true.
be able to.
Right, Gabby, medium high heat, exactly. And because otherwise, usually what I would do is I'd do all, because I'm actually a really decent chef. And I would be in there cutting everything, but unfortunately, we just, you know,
We
it
don't fit
winds
in
up,
there.
yeah, it winds up being lock of the signals, right? I'm sorry, I'll wait for you. Oh, I'm sorry, you wait for me. That kind of thing. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Um, but yeah, no, we made we had taco meat last week. You made.
Yeah, I made
Made
up.
made a good macaroni salad and a good potato salad. That has lasted us all week.
To say I started with I didn't start with white this time. I started with what is this? Chartreuse. My horrible French accent.
Ah,
And so, when you put the white pencil down first, when you add white to a color, it's called tinting, and it will make things a bit more pastel. But when you start with, a color other than white, you'll get a brighter result. I'm just making sure I got that all colored in there. Let me get my.
That
And
looks good.
then
Nikki, we understand hot. One of our greatest pleasures over here is when we bought this place a few years ago. I had a pool up in the Northeast in my house, and that was a requirement. We didn't need one as big as that one, but we needed to have a pool. And
yeah,
there's nothing.
we have a baby pool out back, but boy, it's are we ever glad we did it? Because Georgia gets hot. So this is a slightly darker color, and I'm going, almost all the way to the end of all these little cells.
That's cool, Suzanne. She's been a vegetarian for over 30 years. I do some really good acorn squash and white wine poached onion recipes that my vegetarian friends always love when I cook.
Sometimes I make projects for design teams, and I'm not very impressed with myself. And sometimes I think of something like this and I say, clever girl. Clever, clever girl. I think I'm going to go with this one. I should have done one more, and then we could have done one with more of a, like red-orange color scheme.
Well, you'd have to get it done in 10 minutes.
Oh. Do we have 10 minutes?
Suzanne said, sounds good. She'll be right over. No, I used to, many moons ago, I used to be the one who cooked Christmas dinner because that was my one meal a year for extended family. And I always had a blast.
That's one of the reasons why, I went to the cooking day format. We have a cooking day. Because it was getting to the point where I was no longer enjoying cooking. And, we had always enjoyed cooking together.
Cynthia's a damn good cook. And I wanted her to enjoy cooking. I mean.
So, once again, I started with my lightest color and I'm moving up through darker colors, and then I'll go back and highlight. And this one, of course, I'm doing much quicker, right? I'm still on the right side of my brain, so I can't speak.
That's okay.
Everybody's like, we don't mind.
You've been doing that for 4 months now, sweetie. I like some good chips. I like chips and salsa. My brother makes killer fresh salsa. I haven't seen my brother in probably 15 years, and I miss his salsa. We've been trying to figure out how we can get up to Montana to see him.
Or he can come. Well, we thought about him coming here, but apparently he likes being isolated. He's probably onto something there.
So if any of you guys have seen the old pictures of the Marlboro Man, that's pretty much my brother. That's pretty much my brother. He likes to be alone.
Yeah,
he's the sweetest guy you'll ever meet.
So now I'm gonna get fancy. Now that's a crate. I'm gonna get fancy smancy here.
Oh, now that's something I know how to make, is killer guacamole.
No, I don't
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
exactly what we do, Jane, is what Cynthia will do is hi, Teresa Salgado, welcome back on in. Um, is we're literally make the next 5 to 6 days worth of meals.
Yeah, we have one of those sailor meals and stuff like that.
You know,
So, all
we,
right,
we
yeah.
feel really good for 3 days and then the food begins to run out.
Misha always acts like we're on like an island.
We're in
No, it's
Georgia.
just nice to have the stuff. Use the sailor meal. Sometimes you say, well, I'm going to cook a couple of batches at one time. I have a real Boston accent today. So I'm adding my darkest color, you know.
It's okay, Suzanne, if you come over, take as much chocolate as you can carry.
And again, I'm going to use my colorless blender to just, blend everything in. Just blend all those colors in. I'll keep this one where people can see it. This one I'm rushing around. That's okay. Teresa's doing a cool king on her live tomorrow. Teresa and Elena do really cool lives. Okay,
So
so
Gabby's saying you actually have a Boston French accent today,
I have a Boston what?
with a French tinge to it today.
Oh, today. And so now I'm gonna add some highlights to it. So it really is, just like coloring. Just I
It
really
is.
do think I'm like could I start a business where I mold up Macon's clay and hold adult coloring parties and you come out of it with a piece of jewelry? Would people go for that?
I'd be willing to put that together. We could do a full, live adult coloring day. It would be cool to figure out how to ship everybody a box of wine, and then it'd be really fun.
I think the revenue would come after us, Mishi.
They haven't caught me yet.
Don't even joke around saying things
I
like that.
know.
The next thing you know, we'll be thrown off Facebook.
I do say that it's going to be soon time to make some more limoncello.
Yeah, I make really good limoncello. So see, I've added. You just keep adding layer after layer. It just
Exactly, Gabby. Sip and color, right? And we could even have the rule if somebody curses or they complain about what they're doing, everybody's got to take another sip because that'll go away really quickly. Jessica says she has enough wine for everybody, sweetie.
Oh, these days it seems like there's not enough in the world, huh? Right? And then, we can go through with my tiny white pencil. So what time are we at, Michi? Are we just about...
We're
I'm
at
always...
an hour and 27 minutes, sweetie. See, you're not that far in La La Land because you can come out of it at an hour and a half on the dot. See, that's where I am, Frank. I'm not a giant mix, guys. Now, sangria, I'll drink till it's out of my ears. I love sangria. But I'm a gin and tonic, Black Russian. I make killer martinis. Those are what I use to get on the runway.
Crazy. You're a crazy man.
Now, I make some pretty good wine.
Yeah, we used to do that a lot. We don't have the room here, but we used to, make our own beer and our own wine, and it was good. It was good stuff. I'm gonna get brave and add some violet color here.
We made a really nice blackberry merlot.
Okay. Now,
Not too high, but I like to see just the tops of the trees from time to time. So.
Now and what I did after this is, this clay does pretty well. So see the difference when you start with white as opposed to when you start with another color. I think the white just adds another layer to it that I think to start with white on this particular clay for this particular project is a good idea. Now, if you had started with white clay to begin with, you might not do that. Now, the two glues that work for me that work pretty well with Macon's clay is Arlene's tacky glue, the quick dry tacky glue, and Weld Bond. And so I rolled a little teeny tiny piece of Macon's clay into kind of a tube, and then I made a little head. I glued the head to the body, and then I glued the whole thing to the wing. And then you can drill this just like you drill polymer clay. I drilled a hole in it, and you could punch a hole actually before, before you even cut it out or color it. But I always like to wait because sometimes I decide I want a hole someplace a little bit different. So or you could do it like this. You could have a big. But that's it. That's my adult coloring on black Macon's clay.
So to get the questions out of the way first.
Sure.
Suzanne's asking if you will need to seal that piece.
The one that I made before, I didn't, and that's pretty old. That's more than a year old, and it hasn't lost any color. Now, having said that, I haven't really worn it a lot either. So I think this is I think I want to take this one, right? This one here, because I don't like it as much as this one. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put Deep Shine. If you guys go to tinypandora.com, Teresa Salgado has a product called Deep Shine, which is a brush-on UV finish. So I think I'm going to try putting some Deep Shine on it, and I don't think I'm going to have to seal it. But if I did, what I would use is something called Final Fixative. Grumbach's Final Fixative. So I'm going to try the Deep Shine and see how it looks with the Deep Shine. And if it looks good, then I'll put the Deep Shine on this one, and I'll post it and show it to you guys. I have a couple of other things I've done on stream that I have to finish up and post.
So cool. Yeah, I don't drink as much beer as I used to these days, Sue, but I have been known. I've been enjoying fruit-based lagers, or I prefer, if I'm making something purely for myself, it's a really thick dark beer. I kind of like dessert darks.
Mich makes beers that make me go like that. It hits them. That's the noise I make every time.
And yes, Frank, I like martinis.
Oh.
You should get Cynthia talking about the stealth chocolate martinis that were made one day.
Oh, we had friends over, and the guy said, "Oh, I'm gonna." What was he calling them? Weapons of mass destruction martinis or something like that. And we were all sitting in the living room, and we were watching a movie, and then like the next thing I know, I had one martini, and in the middle of the second one, I just fell asleep. Like, I don't even remember falling asleep. I was like, oh my gosh, what did you guys give me?
That's great, Sue.
Me and the dog. Me
She
and the dog.
sells she sells barrels of real ale for home consumption, complete with hand pull levers. She collects them when they're empty.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. So you know how much red tape I would have to go through if I wanted to do that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have built some really cool systems. I have a great, for both wine and beer, I have a great bottling system. And for the wine, a really good filtration system that I built.
But that's a difficult thing here because I don't know, because a
They make it really.
bootleggers ruined it for everybody.
We got to swap notes, Nikki, because I make a really good ice cider and a really good Perry
Ice
or
wine.
apple.
Yeah, we made some delicious Perry. So Perry's like a cider, but it's
Out of pears.
out of pears, not apples.
And we also love to make a good mead. It's one of the easiest things to make. And if you can get in with somebody who does bees, it's not that expensive to get into. You just got to share some of your load.
Okay. So do you guys have any more questions? I mean, I'm happy to sit here and talk about mead. But do you guys have any more questions about this process?
We're making Gabby thirsty now.
Miss Gabby, who used her own imagination. I felt so bad the other night. She used her own imagination to make a really original project, but I could see that she had been influenced by my project, and then she went around and changed all her posts and was trying to give me credit, and it wasn't necessary. That was your project, your voice.
So, Barbara, which mold did you use for it was a Christy Friesen Flutterby mold, right?
Flutter Wings.
Flutter Wings.
Christy Friesen's Flutter Wings.
Hold on, and I'm going to throw a source that I found to it, but find your best source, folks, because Cynthia didn't leave me a proper link.
I didn't leave a proper link, and I apologize for that.
She's very good about, I get all these crib notes before a stream.
I do try to give you crib notes.
You know, and part of those crib notes are links to stuff.
Yeah, I think that this might be a good. We'll see. I don't know if you can put deep shine on Macon's clay. It might be a little too porous, and I don't know how this would work with resin either. But
yeah, it is. I mean, this is one of the things I like when she works with pencil, Nikki, is you can't. She keeps working the piece until she gets it just the way she wants.
Yeah. So they were pretty.
All right, folks. Looks like it's come to that time of the day. I can't thank you guys enough. I mean, we were having a discussion in the car when we were going grocery shopping today. Friday is one of our, it's a conflicted day for us because by this time in the week, truthfully, we've been beaten down, but we get more energy out of this stream that it propels us to next Friday. So it's really kind of fun.
We're just limping along from stream to stream. Thank you for coming, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
We definitely will be back. We'll catch you next week. You guys have fun.
I can't remember. I'm either doing wire. I think I'm doing wire weaving I'm going to show people how to wire weave around a bezel around a piece of polymer clay or wood burning. I'm doing one or the other
It's
next.
wire next week, sweetie. You're doing for those of you here that you won't see the title until Tuesday. It's wire weaving bezels off for polymer clay cabochons.
Great. I'm gonna show you a couple of neat tricks for that. Thank you all so much for coming. And are we ready to say see you next week, Mish?
We're ready to say see you next week, guys. You know, be good, be kind, be happy, and make a difference. All right, y'all. Have a great, great time.
Bye-bye. Looking for my black pencil.